Hi, and thanks for logging on to the Daily DVAR HaLacha. And there's a brand new halacha for you, and it's for Monday, 13th of June, 14th of Sivan. We're continuing on discussing the laws of Bishul Akum. Generally, that means that you're not supposed to take a food cooked by a non-Jew and then enjoy the food. You're not allowed to have that food because God did not want us relying on non-Jews for our cooking, and we've given reasons and explained the basics of that in our last few halachas. So today's halacha asks this question: what about coffee? You're traveling, you're going somewhere, you're at a rest stop, the coffee is clearly cooked, nobody there is Jewish, and the coffee's been cooked by non-Jews. Can you enjoy the coffee? So, spoiler alert, I'm going to tell you the answer in advance, but don't tune me out. The coffee's all fine. You do not have to worry about Bishul Akum, but now, for the next minute or two, we're going to explain why. Here goes. You would have assumed that Bishul Akum, the problem of the non-Jew cooked it for you, should apply to coffee because the coffee beans require cooking, right? You cannot eat coffee beans raw, so that's one of the characteristics already. You need the non-Jews cooking. Secondly, it is an important food. It's Ola al Shulchan Malachim. You would serve coffee at a king's table, so it's an important food in that regard, and it needs cooking. So Bishul Akum should apply to it. Okay, why doesn't it? So the Pri Chadash says it's because coffee is primarily water. So when someone hands you a cup of brewed coffee, it's basically handing you something that's like mostly just water, water, water. Just there's the strong taste of some coffee in it. And since it's mostly water, that's something that doesn't need cooking, and therefore the non-Jew didn't really do anything for you because he gave you mostly water, which is something that could be had raw. And water in itself is not one of those super important foods, and therefore also Bishul Akum doesn't apply to it. We could have stopped right there and said, coffee's mostly water. That's the end of that. But it gets a little more interesting if you want to follow me through here to the end. And that is, the Pri Chadash compares it to what a Tosos once said about beer. Beer also does not have any problem of Bishul Akum, that it was cooked by non-Jews, and that's because beer is mostly water. Okay, but one more complication before we end, and that is the Shevet HaLevi's question. The Shevet HaLevi asks that beer was water mostly right from the beginning. Hops are put into the water, I think, and that's how you start making beer. So you got something that right from the outset is mostly water, and that's understandable that Bishul Akum doesn't apply to it. But coffee, it starts out with just beans, and the beans are, I don't know, cooked or roasted or whatever they do to them. So at that point, the cooking is very, very important to the proceedings. So shouldn't that make the Bishul Akum cooked by a non-Jew problem apply to the coffee beans? So the Shevet HaLevi answers that the beans themselves are not Ola al Shulchan Malachim. You would not serve coffee beans on a king's table. The only thing that you would serve is the 95% water, which has coffee in it, and it's a hot, beautiful cup of coffee. That's what you would put on the king's table. So you see, by the time you get to the status where it's important enough to be put on a king's table, which is when it's a cup of coffee, at that point, the cooking is the cooking up of mostly just water, water, water with the flavor of coffee in it. Therefore, there is, like we told you at the outset, there is no problem of Bishul Akum on coffee, because generally speaking, coffee is just basically water with beautiful coffee taste in it, and basically water does not have the laws of Bishul Akum. So yep, you do not have to worry if a non-Jew prepares your cup of coffee for you. Still have to make sure it's kosher, but the Bishul Akum problem is not a problem when a non-Jew makes your cup of coffee for you. Thanks for logging on. Log on again tomorrow for more. Bye-bye.